Today we'll be discussing Google Forms, quizzes, and sheets. So all of these are great tools and fun and easy to use. So if you're comfortable with Google Drive, this is just the next step to take it on. Google Sheets is a lot like Excel, Microsoft Excel, except way more user-friendly. And then Google Forms is a simple way to make quizzes and surveys and so forth. And then you can turn those forms into sheets. And right there you have your sheet portion. So let's go ahead and get started. So a couple things to do. We get this attendance quizzes. I'm trying to think. Anyways, a lot of good stuff. So let's go ahead and start. So we're gonna start off with Google Forms. So Google Forms is an online tool for collecting student data like attendance or quizzes. So the first thing we're going to do is take a quiz. So let me go ahead and let me bring it up. I'm coming here to Google. I'm coming to my Drive. Press send and give you a link. And what I want you to do is I want you to try this quiz from the student perspective. Okay? So go ahead and fill out the quiz. As you fill it out, once the two of you finish filling it out, we'll go over how to read the data, and then afterwards we'll create one ourselves. Okay, that's if you've finished from that and 7. So you see right here, I can see who has filled it or how many responses I have received. I'm going to go ahead and come over here to responses. And look, Google automatically creates tables.
Hey, Gianna, you're not in presentation mode.
Thank you. Okay. Okay, so by now you've taken a quiz, and here's my regular quiz sheet or page. And right here it says responses. So I know 8 people have finished filling it out. So this number will change. If you notice, it was 7 a minute ago. And now it's up to 8. And then if I click on it, I can see responses. The cool thing is Google automatically creates these. It automatically creates and what it makes sense to Google. So they might not be exactly how you want it, but at least it gives you a good idea, right? So the average score, right? Because it was on a point system, name. So we see everyone has a unique name, except Jake. He's filled it out twice for me. Thank you. And so we have a through favorite color. So it automatically gave me a pie chart, right, with different colors telling me percentages. Who was the first president? So 2 people have picked Alexander Hamilton, and 75% had thought it was George Washington. Right? Favorite food. So we have pizza, pizza bagels, anything pasta, nuts, steak, chocolate. How many students do you teach? So we have a wide range. Right? And your experiences with Google Docs. So this tells us, a good general overview. But if I come up here, I could break it down by, right? So that's our summary. I could break it down by question. And then I could see everyone's response to question 1, right? And then I could go on to question 2. What is your favorite color? Here's everyone's individual response. Then I could go by individual. So Jacob could look and see everything that he picked, right? And it says what he got correct and what he got wrong as well. So the summary makes it easier for everyone to see it all at once. Okay. And then if you notice right here, this part is the sheets. So if I wanted to export, I can click on here and it'll automatically create an Excel spreadsheet of all the answers. So then now you can manipulate it, right? If you wanted to filter it and sort it, here you go. You can do that. So easy peasy, right? So that's our turn. Now we're going to go over how to create. So I'm going to come over here to Google Drive. So the first thing you do is you could do 2 things. You could go forms.google.com, right? And then you can start creating. Or right here, if you notice, we have our waffle, right? That's our 3x3 right here in the top right corner. We could click here. You can scroll down until you find forms and click forms. So that's way 2. And then way 3 is going to your Google Drive. And then from here, you're going to new, you're going to new and then forms. So quickly, there are 3 ways to get to Google Forms. Forms.google.com, that's way 1. Way 2 is clicking on the waffle and scrolling down till you find the forms icon. That's way 2. And way 3 is going to Google Drive and then clicking on new. And then from that drop-down menu, you click on forms. So those are the 3 ways to get to Google Forms. So if you go ahead and go to your Google Forms right now, I'll give you a minute to join me here. Okay, next up, we are going to give our form a title. So I'm just going to put today's what, Friday? Whatever you want to call it, Friday. So right there, just click here. It automatically changed the title. Now over here, and you can always change it at any point over here. If you want these two to be different, that's fine. You can change them. And then right here will be the description. So you could put Happy Friday. This quiz we are covering. Happy Friday. Today we are going to do a temperature check to see how well your week went. I'm just making something up, right? Then over here, we have question 1. Okay, so question 1, you always want to make it what name. And the reason why you want to make it name is because if they answer everything, you don't know who it belongs to, if you can't really grade it, you can't really say, okay, this person did it, this person did not. So you always want to start off with the name first. So that's super critical for you to be doing. So we want to make that required. We don't want anyone to be able to skip it. So we're going to come over here to required, but we're going to check it off. So this one is required. They have to answer this in order to submit the their sheet. Okay. So I don't know if you noticed, but this before I said I think it was multiple choice and it automatically changed. So look at all these different options that you have. So what we're going to do is why don't we create another one? So I'm going to come over here and I'm going to press the plus sign. This plus sign is to add a question. And this question I'm going to put on a scale of 1 to 5. Look, it already did on a scale of 1 to 5, and they can put it there. How well how accomplished do you feel? And look, it automatically tell me linear scale 1 to 5. And if you want to require it, you can put here require. Now, let's add another one. Plus. Now let's say I want to add a picture. Now there's 2 ways to add pictures, and it depends on what you want that picture for. Okay, so sometimes you want a picture to go with the specific question, and only that question. You want to move the question. If that's the case, you're going to put your question here, type in your question. Pick the emoji that best reflects your current mood. Since I want the picture to go specifically with this question, right, because it has nothing to do with this one over here, I'm going to click this one because it's within my question. And so I can upload to a camera URL. So I'm going to search. I'm going to put emojis. How about that? Feeling. Okay, I'm just going to pick one of these just for time's sake, but you could have picked one that automatically had the description below it. Right? Let's see what. Okay. For time's sake, I'm just going to pick this one right here. Oh, this one's cute. Okay. And there you go. So the question is going to appear on top. Here's the picture. And then we can make it multiple choice, which we can type in the different ones. Or we could change it to short answer, right? Or however we want to do it. So here I'll put happy, sad, excited, accomplished, overwhelmed. You know, however you want to do it. Up to you if you want to require it or not. All right, angry. Okay, now there's another way to add a picture. So that's one, and that goes with it. Now, let's say you want to add a picture and you want it to go belong to the whole sheet, right? Here's the picture, and all the questions are going to go with that picture. And that might be useful for, let's say, if you're teaching math, right? And you're going to have a chart, and you can put a picture of a chart, and then all the questions below it have to do with reading the chart. So if you're doing something like that, you're going to come over here, and you would add the picture here. Okay, this is what you would put. And you notice there's different ways to do the picture. And then what will happen is it'll appear over here on top. And then all the questions underneath will go with it. You'll notice you can also add a YouTube video. So if you wanted to, and the same thing. All right, so let's do a video. Emoji Friday. All right, here it is. Okay, and you can justify it. Write your question here. All right. Which emoji are you going to make? So to get an idea. Now there's some times when you're going to want to create sections. So creating sections, one example could be, okay, let's say you're doing a quiz, right? And you might have one section that's multiple choice and another section that's short answer. So you might want to give instructions. And so here are the multiple choice questions, right? And give instructions. And then over here are the short answer questions, and give it here. And so here's a question that goes with this. Okay, that goes with this. So what you'll do is you'll create add section. So by adding a section, you see section 2. So I could call this one, that one was short answer. So, or you could have that as the intro. Have the intro, here's your name, here's what period I have you, different stuff. And then you can have section 1, multiple choice, section 2, short answer. In this case, those were short answers, so multiple choice. Right here, you can add another description, and then you can add your questions. And here are your questions. Now, let's say I wanted to move this down. I could grab it. You notice how it's this 2 by 3, right? There's 2 rows, 3 columns. I can even drag this over here if I wanted to, or drag it back. So if you want to change orders of questions, that's how you do it. Right, so here's that one. Here's the question, right? This question goes with this. So then multiple choice. And go ahead and, you could create whatever section. So this is just a little preview of how this works. What I'm going to do is I'm going to give you a couple minutes to create a couple questions. Okay, so I can give you about 3 minutes to create a couple questions, and then we're going to go on to how to make it a quiz and how to share it. If you have any questions, you can unmute yourself or put your question in the chat box. Now, one thing I use this a lot for as an everyday was I created a Google form for myself and I left it on my desktop. And I use that to help me keep track of my parent contacts, because if not, I'm always losing stuff. So I had the parent contacts, I had the form, so I already had all the information filled out. And as you notice, you can share it out into an Excel spreadsheet, right? Or a Google Sheet here. So what my principal had done was she had created a Google Sheet, and every page, every tab was a different teacher. So when I did it was I exported it, and you're able to put it, insert it into another document. So I was able to put it into her document. So that way, when I filled it out, both her and I automatically had it in her. So she was able to track my all my parent contacts, and I didn't have to worry about submitting them again. And then I automatically had them as well. So for me, that was a great way to help me stay organized and not to lose my parent contact list. And I'm saying that one because I noticed, Andrea, I noticed you're an assistant principal, so I thought that might be a useful one for you to use with your teachers. I know there's certain surveys you have to do, right, for staff development, beginning year, ending year. You can have them do it electronically and create it this way. Okay, so I've given you a couple minutes. I'm going to go ahead and let's talk about some of the other features. So if you notice over here in the top right corner, I have this gear. Well, the gear stands for settings. So I'm click on the settings and notice. And this part's important, especially for the teachers, right? And it depends, I guess, on how you're going to use it. If you're doing a survey and you want them to be able to go back and edit it, well, people can edit the responses. As is, when you first create it, they can edit the response. Here, restrict to users in mouse.org. So if you're doing faculty, you might want to use this one. Here's the thing. When they're doing it, they need, here, right, yours will say your school district. So that means they have to be using their school district Google profile. If not, if they're using their personal one, they're not going to be able to do it. So they have to have been already logged into their Gmail or to their Google account, their school Google account, to be able to do this. If not, leave it unchecked. Limit to response. So if this is an actual quiz, you only want them to have one response. If not, they're going to keep on going and double checking it and editing their answers until they get 100. Right? Here we have the edit after submit. So that's something else. Do you want them to be able to see the charts and text responses? Well, if it's a survey, you might want them to be able to see, what it is. But if it's an actual grade, you don't want them to see the answers. That's the last thing you want them to be able to do. So just know that these are some of the features here you're going to find in the settings under general. All right, here you can collect email addresses, right? And automatically do that. So that's another feature. Over here, we have presentation. So this one, right, you can show progress. So this would be as they're going through the quiz, they'll tell them how far of the quiz are they done. Are they 25% of the way through it? Are they 50% of the way through it? Another feature that's great is a shuffle order. So even though you create the quiz, you can click here and it'll shuffle the order. But on your Excel spreadsheet, it'll always show up the same and it'll automatically know. But this is perfect for quizzes. So if they're trying to give answers to someone else, hey, we're shuffling the order. That's a small, simple little thing you can do. And over here, we have quizzes. So if we click on quizzes, we can make it a quiz. By making it a quiz, we can actually put the answers in there and Google automatically grade it for you. Isn't that awesome? So right there, it'll do the auto grading and you can give it different points. So if you want one question, let's say it's math, right? And it's a one-step question. So it might be worth 5 points. And you have a two-step question that's worth 10 points and a three-step question and that's worth 15 points. It's up to you how you want to do it. So you're able to also put in how much each question's worth. All right, so here it says, do you want, as soon as, how we talk about immediate feedback? But guess what? Immediately after each submission. Or you might want to wait and put it here. So that way after you can set it. So, okay, at this time, everyone will get their responses at the same time. All right. So it's up to you how you're going to do it. So I'm going to leave it as make a quiz and immediately submit after each. So I'm going to come over here, press save. All right. So I did all this over here using the gear setting. Now that I made it a quiz, I could click over here and you see answer. Well, name's not going to have an answer. And right here is 0 points. I'm going to scroll up. Okay. This one, how are you feeling? So answer. So if I click an answer, then I can click over here and I can change the points. So they get 3 points just for answering this question. All right. Add answer feedback. So this is important because let's say you have a multiple choice question, right? And they pick A. Well, you could say A is incorrect because, and then you can put that feedback there. If they put B, great job, you got it. If you pick C, well, this is partially correct. So this is where it talks about add feedback. So based on what they chose, you can actually give them feedback. So when they get the responses, there you go. So let's do this one, right? I click on it, I'm going to add it to answer, and I'm going to say, okay, this one is worth 5 points. And I'm going to say the answer is this one. So that's the answer. Done. So you see, I know it's done. It says over here, check mark, this is the correct answer. And it's worth 5 points. And that's how you give it points. Okay, and that's how you create an answer key. Okay, so I'm going to give you a minute to play around with the answers. Give 1 or 2 questions an answer key. Create an answer key and give it a point and mark one of them correct. Okay, let's talk about how to share it. So let's say you're done creating the quiz. Now you want to share it with your students. So what you're going to do is you'll come over here and you're going to press this purple send button. So if I click on the purple send button, I have different ways to fill it out. So I can put a specific person's email address right here, or I can use over here the link. So here's the link. So you can copy it, or you can come over here and press shorten URL. Right? There it goes. It shortened it for me. Then I press copy. And if you're teaching using a Google Classroom, or even like this, what we did in this meeting, put it in the chat box. Send them an email. Different ways to be able to go ahead and incorporate it. And then you can embed it into a website. Right? So right here you go to embed it. Okay. Now, when you do this, one thing you're going to want to make sure is your restrictions. So in your settings, under general, don't forget about your restrictions. Okay. Do you want your students only to be able to allow to use their school email address? If so, you're going to want to make sure that you restrict to that one user. And check the chat box. Let me know if you have any questions. Okay. Why don't we go ahead and move on to Google Sheets, right? So we've created our quiz, right? So in Google Forms. And next up, we're going to use Google Sheets. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and use the data that we currently have from the quiz, the one that you just took earlier today. So right here we go. Here's our sheet. So let's talk about, like I said, it's similar to Microsoft Excel, except it's way easier. Okay, so some things that I do, and this is me as an automatic. I know I've been pulling data, and I have to download it, and then either a CSV file or an Excel file, and then as soon as I finish downloading it, I upload it and convert it, because to me it's just way easier this way. So simple things to do, especially when you're doing large pieces of data, is I like to come over here and I'll highlight this row. And there's two things I always do off the bat. And this is just me. This is a personal thing, right? So I click on the row, and sometimes it's a column, depending. And you can click a row and a column in Google, which I love. So I'm going to click this row, and I'm going to come over here to view, and I'm going to freeze. So I'm going to freeze this one row. And that's important to me because as I'm scrolling, right, especially when you have large quantities of data, that's automatically there, right? So it doesn't matter if I'm on line 100, right? I'm still going to be able to see what the column, what they represent. What does the data represent? So I do that, and then I tend to highlight it. This is just me. And right there you go. So that way it's nice. And then I might bold it as well, right? Come back and I'll bold it. So here we go. The other thing I do, and then this is because, again, I use quite a bit of data, is I'll click on it and I will come over here to data and I'll create a filter. Now this filter for me comes in handy. So let's say here, I want this to go from smallest to largest. And right there you go. It just sorted the entire page, right? So all of this data got sorted with it, just based on this one filter that I created, right? I wanted smallest to largest. So it automatically did that, smallest to largest. Right? And so the good thing about this is you can share it and you can have two people working on it at the same time. Now, one thing, let me go back real quick because I'm using one that we already have. So let me go back just for a minute to show you, like say you do not have an Excel spreadsheet already ready to go and you want to create one from scratch. So again, there are 3 ways, right? So I'm going to come over here and show you the 3 ways. So way 1, right, it's sheets.google.com. That's way 1, right? Way 2 is you come over here to the waffle, right? That's your 3x3. And you look for the sheets icon and you click on it. That's way 2. And then way 3 is you come to your Google Drive, you click on new, and you come to sheets. That's way 3, right? So there's 3 ways to get to create a new Google Sheet. Okay. So right there, we've talked about freezing. Well, let's talk about changing the size, right? So if you want to change the size of a column, all you have to do is grab the one you want. You know, I'll grab this one. This one's small, right? So I want to make it smaller. So I'm going to come over here, just notice how I grab the arrow, and there we go. Simple as that. So I click on here I'm clicking the column, but the same thing works with the row, right? And I just change it up. I want to make this one centered, right? So I'm clicking here. I'm going to center it. This one I might want to make bigger. I might want to wrap it. So I'm going to come over here, format, text wrap, right? So in format, text wrapping, and then wrap. And right here we go. So right there, we've frozen it. We've changed the size. Let's talk about inserting and deleting. And you can also change rows. So let's say we want to change this number. We want to change it right after the students. So what I'm going to do is, you notice how I clicked on it? I'm going to do it again. I'm going to click on it. And you see that hand that showed up? I'm pressing down on my mouse and I'm dragging it over here. And look, I just changed the order. So I didn't have to insert a row, then copy, paste, and delete. No, I just dragged it over to where I want it to be, right? I'm going to undo it. But that's how you can change the order. Now to insert, if you want to insert a row, like say here, I'm going to right click right here. You can decide if you want to enter it to the right or to the left. Right, there you go. I inserted one to the left. And now you can insert more information. Right? If you want to delete, just click on it, right click, and let's delete. Same thing is going to work for the row. If I want to come here, insert one above or below, and then delete. Look, you can clear a row of all the data. See that? I'm going to undo that for now. But right there you go. So those are the basics. Now let's talk about a cool thing you can do. So let's say you have, again, large quantities of data. And I want to know how many people picked Alexander Hamilton as the first president. And I want to know how many people picked George Washington as the president. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come over here and I'm going to use a formula. So over here, if you notice right here on the top right, it says this is a sum function. If I click, here's a list of all these functions, right? All these math functions that you can use. So the one I'm going to do is the count. Okay? So I want to know how many times something appears. So I'm going to put equals count if. You see how the count if? Then I'm going to open parenthesis. And I want it, well, you know what? Here we go. X out. I'm going to put it over here to the side. And you could always put it over here if you wanted to. So I'm going to put it over here. Equals count if open parenthesis. And I want to do all this. Okay? Then I'm going to put comma. And I want to know, and then I'm going to put open quotient. I'm going to put Alexander Hamilton. And I put the quotient again and closed cap, and here we go. So two people picked Alexander Hamilton. I'm going to put Alex. And then here, let's see how many people picked George. So I'm going to do the same thing, right? Equals count if, open parentheses. I want this column. And you can always drag it. So if you want to pick a certain area, I could have done this if I wanted to. Here I could put, I could do it from within this range if I wanted to. Okay, but for now, I'm just picking this one. Comma, and I wanted to search for George Washington. And 6 people picked George Washington. Right? So this is res number. Another thing I'm going to show you that's super neat, right, that Google does is we can, now that we know we have our numbers, right, we have a new to add a table, what we're going to do is we're going to highlight it. Then I'm going to put insert. And I'm going to put chart. So give it a minute and look, it created a chart. Right, so here, 25% picked Alexander Hamilton, and 75% picked George, right? So it automatically came from right here, and it's using these numbers. Notice it automatically gave me a pie chart, and I can resize it. I can always come up here and say, you know what, I want a bar chart instead. Right? I want it this way. So even though it gives it to you, you can still change it up. Here we go, switch rows and columns. You can do that as well. Let's take a look at customizing. I can come over here to customize. And here we have all these other features. So let's go to setup. There we go. I can change the title. And just different little things you can do. You can copy and paste this, right? Right click, copy and paste it. If you want, you insert, you can create a legend, access, right? So many different things you can do with it. Okay. Next. Oh yeah, so right here I could change it to who was the first president? Not gonna spell out United States, but you get the idea. And as you make it bigger, it'll show up. Okay, so then the last thing we're going to cover is sharing it. Right? So let's talk about sharing your sheet. So we're going to come over here to the top right corner. We're going to put share. Here you can add people. But if you're using it, excuse me, if you're using it for a quiz or so forth, you might want it over here. Anyone, right? So copy link, exchange. Got it? So I can let everyone, this one says view. So it depends. Do you only want them to view it? You can let them comment, or you can make them an editor, right? And come back over here to view. Over here, it's up to you. Do you want it restricted? Only mouse users or anyone? Like say you're doing a parent survey. If you're doing a parent survey, they're not going to have a district email address, well, unless they work for the district, right? But the majority of them will not. And in which case you would put anyone with a link can view it. So then, right there you go. Click on the one you want. Press done, and oops, copy the link. And that is how you share it. Right, you can come over here, you can click on a certain person, and then you can change that. So like say you're working with a teacher, you could pick the teacher and make the teacher that, you know, your person you're collaborating with, make them an editor. Then you can make it someone else. You can have a whole list. And I do that. If you look at some of mine, I have some people who are editors. My work email, and that's one of my colleagues. I let him edit. And then my boss, I do not let her edit because she's not good with Google and I'm afraid she's going to mess everything up. So I let her comment on it and then I'll make the corrections. And then other people that we share it with, I only allow them to view it. So you'll see on some of mine where you'll have a whole list. And you go back here, right here it says me, but if you have it, you'd have a whole list of people that you added them to, and it'll tell you their exact status for each one. And that's it. Now it's your turn. Your turn to get on there and to start playing around with some responses, and let me know if you have any questions. So that's what we're going to be doing for the last 6 minutes is you'll be playing around with the Google Sheet. So create a Google Sheet, or if you have one, upload it, convert it to a Google Sheet, and start playing around and let me know what questions you have. Okay, so what did I cover about size? Okay, so if you want to change the size of these, right, click on it and you can drag it, right? Another thing you could do is you could grab it, and you see how I clicked on it, I got this little hand? I can move it over here and change the order. Things we talked about was right click, and you can insert to the right or the left, right? Insert a column, or you can delete a column. You can do the same thing with rows. Click on the row, right click. You can insert a column above, insert below. You could delete it. And remember, you can also clear it. So if I wanted to clear that row, I can clear that row. Again, if you click on it, I can also drag this and change the order as well. Okay, so that was the size. What else did I cover at the beginning? I covered the freezing, right? How to freeze in the beginning. So what you would do is you click on the row or the column, and you'd go to view and freeze. So you could freeze of 1 or 2, right? Rows, 1 or 2 rows, 1 or 2 columns, or it says up to, and you can click there as well. So that's how you can freeze it. So that way, as you scroll, it's always there. Oops. Another thing I talked about was creating filters. So that way you could put them in alphabetical order, numerical order, smallest to largest, largest, smallest. And you would do that by clicking the one you wanted to filter. And then you come to data, and here I have it turned off, but then now here, data, filter. And now I can change it up. Okay, let me know. Play around with it, Michelle, and let me know if you have any other questions. But thank you so much for joining us. Jacob, can you put the post survey in the box, please? Okay, so Michelle, are you talking? Okay, informs. So using an image as a question. Okay, so give me an example of how you want to use it, and I'll tell you how to use it. Go ahead and unmute yourself.
Well, I remember when you were going over the forms, you talked about the 2 different ways you could insert an image. So an image at the top versus like an image in the question. And I was just wondering examples of why you would do it one way or the other.
Okay, So sometimes, like I said, let's say you're doing a quiz over charts or over a picture. They have to analyze something. You might want to ask multiple questions over the same picture. So if you want to ask multiple questions over the same picture, that's when you're going to want it at the top, and you'll use this one here, add image. Now, if you want it specifically with it, right, a question to go with just one, and I'm thinking, think of some of the tests that we've seen our students take, right? Sometimes it's one question and there's multiple things, and you can even have short answers for it. Okay, so here's an example. You might have a picture that has multiple, and I'm thinking science. I'm thinking, let's say you have the food web, right? You might put a picture of the food web. And question one is going to be, which organisms are producers? And then, and so they're going to look at the chart, and they're going to list all the producers. And this question two is going to be, which organism are consumers, right? And then they'll put in their answers. And then another question would be maybe a multiple choice. Which is a food chain in the food web, right? And since some of them might be incorrectly, right? The order. They might change up the order, so forth, and then they have to pick the right one. Which is the top level consumer? So you see how there's multiple questions based on one picture? So by doing that, that's when you would do this. And the image would be at the top, and all the questions would be below it, because there's multiple questions to go with that one. Same thing when you're doing graphs and charts and math. You're going to say, give me the, like, say, mean, median, range, right? Or you could do a set of data, right? And have that as an image. You could do a number line. And then, so let's say you have one for here. You could do a number line, and you could say, okay, where, and they could maybe have some blanks, and they could say, which one does, where does 3/5 belong in the timeline, in the number line? And there might be A, B, C, D, and they'll have like different little numbers there. So that might be right here that goes specifically with this one question. You can always do one simple, right, where you give them an image and then have them write an essay, right, based on it as a prompt. And then at that point, you can come over here and you can use paragraph. So you can have an image there, and the image will be their prompt to get them going. So those are some things off the top of my head. Okay, so remember, so right, you click over here if you click on this side to insert image, that means that's going to go in the beginning, and there's multiple questions. If you're in the question, you click this one right here, then it's going to go with that question, and I'll move up and down with that question. You see how if I move up, as I go to the other questions, it stays there because it belongs to that question. So that's when you push this one, just to the right of the question. Okay, any other questions? Well, thank you so much for joining us, and enjoy your Friday. Happy Friday. Hope you have a great weekend. Bye-bye.